Hi everybody, in this video we're going to do section 1 of our TSI review booklet. Okay, starting off with number 1, we are multiplying, because remember parentheses mean multiply, -2 times -7. So remember, two negatives when I multiply them make a positive, so I'm going to get rid of my negative answer choices. And then 2 times 7 gives me 14, so my answer choice here is A. Okay, next one, I have 50 divided by -4. Again, I want to get rid of the choices that don't make sense. So I have a positive divided by a negative. One positive and one negative is going to keep it negative. So I'm going to get rid of C and D here because those are both positive. And now I need to figure out, hey, what does my answer choice look like? So I know kind of what I need to do, because I could divide this and get a decimal, or I could just simplify this and get a fraction. Because my answer choices are fractions, I'm going to rewrite it as 50 over -4, and I'm just going to simplify that fraction. So I need to find a number that divides out of 50 and 4, because whatever you divide out of the top, you have to divide out of the bottom. They're both even, so I'm going to divide the top and bottom both by 2. 50 divided by 2 is 25. 4 divided by 2 is 2. I keep the negative there, so my answer choice here is B. So make sure that you look at your answer choices before you start solving. That way you know what your answer should look like. Okay, and last one on this page, we have a bunch of numbers together. When we are calculating something or evaluating something, we need to remember PEMDAS. So parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide, add and subtract. We're going to look at our parentheses first, which is this guy. Inside the parentheses, we restart over our PEMDAS. So now I'm looking at the exponents. I'm going to do 3 squared first. So 3 squared is 3 times 3 to give me 9. So I'm going to rewrite 12 minus 4, parentheses 5, minus 9, divide by 2. I need to keep on the inside of my parentheses, so I'm going to do 5 minus 9 next to give me a -4. So copy down everything next. And now I'm going to go on to my exponents. I don't have any exponents, so now I'm going to multiply and divide from left to right. So the first multiplication I see is this guy here. Negative times a negative gives me a positive, so it's going to be 12 plus, and 4 times 4 is 16. And still divided by my 2. I'm still looking from left to right for any multiplication or division, so I'm going to do this guy next. 16 divided by 2 is 8, so I get 12 plus 8, which will give me 20. So remember, when you have a bunch of numbers together, follow PEMDAS. All right, moving on to number 4, we have 93.6 divided by 0.6. This one, we're going to have to go old school. Y'all remember long division? 93.6, the first number goes on the inside, and then on the outside, you have 0.6. We don't know how to divide by fractions, so we're actually going to convert this. So the outside number out here always has to be a whole number, no decimals. So if I move the outside 1, I'm going to have to move the inside by the same number. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the decimal point here, and I'm also going to put it in my answer just so I don't forget. So essentially, this is the number 6, so the 0 just goes away. Okay, when I'm dividing, I'm just going to look at this first number here. My question is, how many times does 6 go into 9? Well, it goes in only once, meaning I can multiply 6 times 1 to get 6. The number I'm multiplying goes on the top, and then I'm going to multiply. 1 times 6 gives me 6. I am going to subtract 9 minus 6 to give me 3. I need to check here to make sure 3 is less than 6. If it's a bigger number, it just means you could have multiplied by a bigger number up here, so go back and do that. But 3 is less than 6, so I know I did it right. I'm going to bring down my next number and start the process over. So again, how many times does 6 go into 33 without going over? Well, 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 6 is 36, which is too big. So I know that my correct answer is 5. Again, put it at the top. Multiply 6 times 5 to give me 30. And then subtract. 33 minus 30 is 3. Bring down the next number. Start it over again. 6 goes into 36 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36. Subtract. We have 0 as a remainder, so that means it is a perfect answer here. So my answer choice is 156. Make sure when you're dealing with decimals that you move over the decimal to make sure that number on the outside is a whole number, and then you do the same amount of moves for your decimal on the inside. Okay, last one on this page, we have 3/4 plus 5/6. The thing about fractions is when you're adding or subtracting, the denominators or the bottoms have to be the same. Right now, they're not the same. So my question is, what is the biggest number that 4 and 6 can multiply to? It's called a least common denominator. So I'm looking at these two and I'm like, well, 6 times 4 is 24. They can both multiply to 24. So I'm going to let that be my least common denominator. Now that I've found that, I need to make both of those fractions, the denominators, into 24. So looking at this first fraction, I'm like, 4 times what number would give me 24? Well, I know it's 6, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 6. This guy, in order for the denominator to be 24, I need to multiply it by 4 on top and bottom. Okay, so let's go ahead and simplify this. So 6 times 3 on the top would give me 18 over the bottom. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 5 times 4 is 20 over the same 24. So that's step 1. You need to do your least common denominator. Once I have that, the saying with adding or subtracting fractions is combine the tops and keep the bottoms. So now I'm going to add the tops. So 18 plus 20 gives me 38, and I'm going to keep the bottoms the same. So all over 24. And now I'm like, oh, I don't see that answer choice, so I have to take one more step, and I'm going to simplify that fraction by dividing out the same number from the top and bottom. I'm looking at these numbers. They're both even, so when in doubt, divide by 2 if they're both even. So I'm going to divide by 2 on the top and on the bottom. 38 divided by 2 gives me 19. 24 divided by 2 gives me 12. I see that answer choice there, so I'm going to go ahead and choose it. All right, on to the next. So number 6. We are dividing fractions, and anytime we divide fractions, there is a nice saying that is called keep, change, flip. So I'm going to, keep the first fraction the same, change the division into multiplication, and flip the last fraction upside down. So anytime you are dividing fractions, you are always going to do keep, change, flip. So 7 over 9 stays the same, change to multiplication, flip 5 over 6 into 6 over 5. And now we're multiplying fractions. Multiplying fractions is really nice. We're going to multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. You do not have to have a least common denominator when you are multiplying fractions, only when you're adding and subtracting. So multiplying the top, 7 times 6 is 42. On the bottom, 9 times 5 is 45. And again, I don't see my answer choice there, but that's okay. I'm just going to simplify this fraction. So I'm looking between 42 and 45. Those are kind of big numbers. A trick, if you want to remember, if both of the numbers add to a multiple of 3, then you can divide it by 3. So 4 plus 2 is 6, and then 5 plus 4 is 9. 6 and 9 are both divisible by 3. Therefore, 42 and 45 can also be divided by 3. So I'm going to divide these guys by 3 on top and bottom. Remember, we don't have a calculator on this. So if you don't know 42 divided by 3, that's okay. We know how to fix it. We're going to put the first number on the inside, the second number on the outside. 3 goes into 4 once. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract it. Bring down your 2. 3 goes into 12 4 times, and I have no remainder. So that means 3 times 14 will give me 42. So that's the number on the top. And then I already see my answer choice here. The only one that has a 14 on the top is B. If I divided 45 and 3, it would indeed give me 15. So you guys have the tools. Yes, it might be a little bit more work, but you know how to solve these. So take the extra time, do long division if you need to. Okay, on to the next one. Again, we're adding fractions, but these are actually mixed numbers. They have regular numbers and they have fractions. So I'm going to do the easy part first. Let's go ahead and add 5 plus 7 to give me 12. So I'm just going to let this 12 hang out here, and I'll add them back at the end. Next, we're going to do the same thing like we did on the last 2 or 3 when we were adding fractions together. The first step is I have to find the least common denominator, meaning both the numbers on the bottom have to be the same. Well, I know that in order to make them the same, I could multiply the 3 times 2 to make 6, and then they would be the same. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply the top and bottom of this fraction by 2. So we already did the 5, we already did the 7, get rid of those. So multiply 2 times 2 to give me 4, on the bottom 3 times 2 to give me 6, and then I'm copying the second fraction as it is. Now that they have the same denominator, I'm going to add the tops, keep the bottoms the same. On the top, I have 4 plus 5 to give me 9. over 6. And now I can piece that together with my 12. Well, 9 over 6, 9 is more than 6. So technically, I can rewrite this and divide it out. So y'all remember, 9 divided by 6. 6 goes into 9 once. 1 times 6 is 6. 9 minus 6 is 3. And then I don't have any more numbers to bring down. So this is my remainder or my leftovers. So 9 over 6 simplifies to 1 and 3 out of 6. So we're going to convert this back to a mixed number. Well, 3 out of 6, I'm like, oh, well, I can divide by 3 on the top and bottom to simplify that fraction. So 1 and 3, 6 simplifies to 1 and a half. So now I can add 12 plus 1 and 1/2 would give me 13 and 1/2. And I'm like, oh, there's my answer choice of D. So when you have mixed numbers, add the big numbers first. Sometimes you'll be able to eliminate answer choices just by that. This one we couldn't, so we had to go onto our fractions. We found a least common denominator. We found our 9 over 6. I knew that I had to convert it to a mixed number, and I was able to divide, find a remainder, and put it out of my number that I was dividing. Those are a little bit more complicated, so make sure that you take your time on those so we don't mix up any numbers. Okay, the last two questions, we're almost done. So I have 2 over 5x plus 7 over x. I'm adding fractions. It has a variable. It has an x. That's okay. We're going to do the same process. The first step is finding the least common denominator. Well, 5x and x look very similar, but this guy is just missing the 5 on the bottom. So in order to give him a 5, I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 5. So I'm going to rewrite 2 over 5x stays the same, plus 7 times 5 is 35 all over 5x. So now that I have the same denominator, I can add the tops and keep the bottoms the same. 2 plus 35 is 37. Keep the bottom the same. There's our answer choice of C. Okay, last one. This is dealing with exponents. So this is our exponent rules. If you remember, we need to distribute the 2 to everything on the inside of that parentheses, including the bottom. When we do that, we get 3 squared. Excuse me. Be careful here. 3 squared is 3 times 3, not 3 times 2. 3 times 3 is 9. The y is a 1. When I am distributing, I need to multiply the exponent, so that's y squared all over x, and then 3 times 2 gives me 6. So look how mean they were here. If you forget that 3 squared is really 3 times 3, they gave you 6. So we need to be very careful. We don't want those because we know that 3 squared is 9, and then down here is our answer choice